Hello, this is Zahirul Alam. Welcome you all on Frankly Speaking. My guest today is Ambassador of Norway, Her Excellency Ms. Sissel Blaken, who presented her credentials to Bangladesh President on October 26, 2016. She has had a long career with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Norway. She worked in several senior positions in the Ministry of Norway Foreign Affairs and has 10 years of working experience in South Asia. She, before coming as ambassador to Bangladesh, she visited Bangladesh several times. And we welcome Ambassador Sissel Blaken on Frankly Speaking.
Thank you.
Nice seeing you, and very grateful that you are joining me today. With
Nice
Frankly
to be here.
Speaking. Yes, yeah. Ambassador Sissel, last year when you presented credential, you said that friendship has always been strong between Bangladesh and Norway, and you are trying to deepening this engagement through trade, diplomacy, through bilateral engagements in many ways. So 1 year has already been passed. Where you stand now?
Hopefully we have even stronger ties. I see in Norway increasingly that people are increasingly getting interested in what's happening in Bangladesh, and also looking into what the possibilities for cooperation, particularly when it comes to the business, to the trade, but also political cooperation between our ministries and cooperation on the global arena, in the United Nations, for instance. That's I think we have a lot of common interests actually in Norway and Bangladesh.
So political cooperation, what it encompasses? What are the areas you mean that political cooperation should signify?
We are, for instance, working closely with Bangladesh when it comes to negotiations in the UN on this new global compact on migration.
Okay.
Because we all believe, or we both countries believe, that we need to have safe, orderly and regular migration. We need to work on how to regulate the migration streams, the flows coming from one country to another country, to have legal pathways to move, and also then legal pathways or ways to handle if people are moving illegally, and how to handle that. And we are working very closely with Bangladesh on that, and we have had very good dialogue.
When you talk about migration, definitely the Rohingya issue as inevitably comes up to the scene. Yeah. That's different, no doubt about that. Migration and Rohingya refugees, they refuse to Bangladesh under certain atrocities or ethnic cleansing or under oppression by the Myanmar Authority. So this is a serious crisis for Bangladesh right now, and development you have been observing differently, and Norway also extended their support somehow or other. And right now, what is the observation from the Norway point of view?
Because this is a very severe crisis, and I think Norway, like all the international, almost the international community, we are very sort of appreciating that Bangladesh has opened the borders and receiving this huge stream of people. So many people in such a short time is a huge challenge, and we stand by Bangladesh in also providing humanitarian support, as well as support on the political level in the United Nations, for instance, because this is something that, it needs to be solved by an agreement between Bangladesh and Myanmar, but there need to be support and there need to be pressure on the Myanmar government. And
do you think the parties concerned moving forward in the right direction in solving the crisis?
I hope so. We are, because they need to talk to each other. Because this MOU that has been signed, it's not that much known yet about what is the real contents or how it will be implemented. But there are some good, according to the reports in the newspapers, there are some good elements like allowing the United Nations into the process, and also referring
Has that been remarkably or very evidently established that international community or United Nations or UNHCR might get into this process?
As far as I understand, it's mentioned in the agreement. I don't know exactly the wording, how it has been worded. There might be some limitations, I don't know, but of course from the Norwegian side we think the protection of the refugees and their human rights is very, very important, and that need to be protected also in the repatriation process. The repatriation need to be voluntary, and they need to be able to go back to their own villages, and they need to get their rights protected. Otherwise, we risk that they will just come back again to Bangladesh, and that is, no one is interested in that.
But there is no guarantee clause, there is no time frame.
I think it's a beginning. It's a beginning, and we have to follow it very closely to see how this develops.
Do you think this issue can be solved bilaterally, or international community has been sidelined in this process?
It needs to be solved bilaterally, but it needs to be solved with support from the international community, because otherwise, the two countries, then you need to have a cooperation between Bangladesh and Myanmar. If you don't have that, then there will be no solution. But the international community needs to be following this closely, both on the Bangladeshi side and on the Myanmar side, to make sure that we have the international principles, humanitarian principles, are followed also in the repatriation process.
So, is there any apprehension of not being compliant by the Myanmar authority, taking into account the previous experiences?
That we don't know yet. That's why we also have to follow this very closely. And of course, it's, as far as I understand, the verification process is going to be probably the most challenging part of this, because I understand that's Myanmar who will have the final word. And if they are asking for documents which these refugees have not been able to bring with them, then there is a challenge, definitely.
But it's a good beginning.
It's a necessary beginning, I think.
But international community definitely will be pursuing and exerting their pressure, or whatever the diplomatic efforts will be on to get a resolution of this crisis.
Definitely. And we will also continue with our humanitarian support, and we will start to look into, I think, also more long-term support, both on Myanmar side, but also to have a little bit more long-term perspective on the Bangladeshi side, because even if there is an agreement, it's not realistic or likely to think that 600,000 people will move back within a very short time. So we need to make sure that in the meantime, while they're staying here, they can be able to be self-sufficient and to, to a larger extent, take care of themselves.
Ambassador Cecil, since 1974, Bangladesh has received more than 12 billion from Norwegian aid. For Norway, Bangladesh is the 4th largest recipient country, and your bilateral cooperation has been revised. And you are moving now on to business cooperation and political dialogue. Some of the projects you have also been focusing on, like climate change, environment, sustainable development. You have also been working women and gender equality, governance and human rights. So gradually, our areas of cooperation have been widening. So if you start from good governance and human rights, how you are supporting Bangladesh?
Because this is an area which is very, very important for Norway. We are always fighting for human rights and protection of human rights. Through the years when we had the larger development program, we were supporting human rights organizations and women's rights organizations. Now it's more like it's the political dialogue. We would have meetings with civil society organizations. We would use our Facebook postings and the social media to promote the issues. We would have close contact with human rights organizations still, even if we do not support their programs. And of course, we will bring this up with government authorities as well, because it's the government's role to protect their citizens.
What kind of development you wanted to promote here through this engagement?
One of the things which is very close to my heart is, of course, the gender equality and the women's rights, and in particular that having more women into the labor market and more women in political positions, not only at the government level, but also at the local level, as well as more women in management positions in the business.
Is that called creating an inclusive society?
Yes.
And you have been also working for ending violence against women.
Yeah, of course. Now we are in the beginning of the 16 days. So a number of ambassadors, the female ambassadors, with some more inclusion of also some male friends, are promoting this very actively. We have written an op-ed in the newspapers. We would use our social media. We would have various kinds. Some would, have. We would have film screenings. We would have seminars. We would work through also NGOs in this matter, and we would have dialogue with the government as well, also on this.
For you, how do you observe the overall, status of women in Bangladesh?
It's a mixed picture, I think, because it has, of course, you have very prominent women in a number of positions. You have very strong women, and you have had a sort of NGO society even all the time since liberation, which has been very active promoting women's rights and women's participation. At the same time, you also have a society where women do not have the same opportunities as men. They cannot to the same extent choose the way they want to live. They cannot to the same extent participate in the labor force. It's, when women get married, they are expected to have their first child as soon as possible, and when they have the first child, it's difficult to continue to work. So there is so many limitations. Apart from that, also, since we're talking about gender-based violence, there is also so many women.
Is that alarming? Gender-based violence, is that alarming?
That's alarming, yes. I think that is quite alarming, because the rates in Bangladesh is very high. This is, of course, something that we see in every society. It's nothing that is only in Bangladesh, but we see it in Norway as well. But the rate is very high in Bangladesh, and also the way this is handled by your law enforcing agencies. People are afraid to go to the police, not only because they might be afraid that their husband would not like it, but also because they're afraid of the way they are received quite often. So initiatives to have female police stations, for instance, is very, very important.
And also creating equal opportunities for the women folks is also a big challenge in a country like Bangladesh?
Yes, I think it is. But I think you are on the right path, definitely. And one of the
in terms of creating equal opportunities?
Yes, I think so. And one important thing which I know that has, it's during the history since independence, the efforts that has been done by the government and the civil society in, reducing the population growth.
Okay.
That is actually an important element also for more equality for women, because then they can have more choices about how to live their lives. If you are expected to have 5, 6, 7 children, you don't really have time to do much else.
Yes.
If you have 2 children, then you have more liberty as well.
Give your view on the state of democracy. You have been working differently on governance, human rights.
Yeah.
Also talk about of an inclusive election. We all know that last elections was not that much inclusive. It's not that much, so to say, it was one-sided due to boycott of a major political party. So how do you foresee the next general elections?
I sincerely hope that it will be free and fair, and that all the major political parties will participate, and also that they will feel, all parties, that they have equal opportunities to run election campaigns, because it's not only about what happens on election day, but it's about what happens all up to the elections, that all parties are given the opportunity to run campaigns, to have rallies, and I would also...
Is that something creating a level playing field?
Yes, definitely. And I'm afraid that was not there during the previous election. I hope that it will be this time, and then also that all the parties are responsible and showing responsibility, because unfortunately Bangladesh has been hampered by a lot of violence when you have elections. And that goes for all parties. I think it's not just one party who is responsible for the violence, but violence takes place between parties, but also within parties. So, for all parties to have also some discipline and not use violence to reach their means.
And you have support for strengthening election commission?
At least we are in dialogue with the election commission, and we will talk to them. Whether we will have financial support, I don't know yet, but we definitely we would support to have an independent election commission who is actually able to run elections in a free and fair manner.
You have been promoting business, commerce and investment also. What are the areas you find most brisk or good for investment in Bangladesh?
I should probably start with the largest Norwegian investment in Bangladesh, which is the Norwegian company Telenor, who is the major shareholder in Grameenphone.
Yeah.
Because they have been here for 20 years, and it's been such a success story. It started, with bringing cheap mobile phones to poor people in the rural areas, and now they have 60 million subscribers, and so that's quite a success story. They are the largest taxpayer, I believe, in this country, and the largest company on your stock exchange. And they are still, interested in looking for more areas to invest and to continue this very, very successful story, and also contributing to, digital Bangladesh.
What are the other potential areas you can look into?
Yeah, there are, of course, linked to this, the information communication technology. That is one of the areas that we think there are huge opportunities for cooperation and for outsourcing, and also because there is, so many vibrant and energetic and innovative people who are working in that sector. So that is one area. Another area is renewable energy, or the energy sector.
You made huge progress in solar power.
Yeah, well, at least we are making some progress, and I hope that soon it will be huge as well.
Is there any positive development?
Yes, there's an application for the first solar power plant. That's from a Norwegian company, which is hopefully they will be able to have negotiations about the price and so on very soon. And then
why Bangladesh should pursue? Why Bangladesh should go for solar power, solar energy?
You have such a potential. There is such a lot of sun here, and you have energy need, and this energy need in the future cannot be met only by fossil fuels with coal and oil and gas. So you need to look for alternative energy sources as well. And then solar energy is one of them.
So after 1 year, share some of your personal experience about Bangladesh. What are the issues? What are the things impressed you most here?
I think what impresses me most is the friendliness and the openness of the people, and also the energy and the drive and the interest to move things forward. I think that is what impresses me the most.
And you are at least 2 years more staying in Bangladesh. Where you want to see the relations between the two countries?
I want to see that, in particular, I want to see that Bangladesh is more known in Norway, because unfortunately there is not enough knowledge in Norway about Bangladesh, and the little knowledge that is mainly now, of course, everyone knows about the Rohingyas. Yeah. But I want them to know that Bangladesh, for instance, is a vibrant cultural society. There is a huge art scene, you have your music, you have your literature, you have your traditions. So I want that to be more known, and I also want Norwegian companies to be more aware about all the opportunities that have. Bangladesh is a country with 160 million people. It's a huge market, and it's, should be so many opportunities for the export of garments to Norway is increasing every year. We have ceramics, and I assume that if your leather industry would take off, that would be another area as well. And of course, then also as I said, the information communication technology. Because that doesn't really know any boundaries. You can sit here and work for Norwegian companies.
It's a global challenge, like climate change, like rising violent extremism. These are not for only Bangladesh. We are all vulnerable to these challenges. Definitely different kind, but I should mention like the menacing problem, climate and extremism.
I think when it comes to climate change, that is actually one of the areas Bangladesh is known for being a success story. We also, you're known for being one of the countries that are the most vulnerable, but we are also known for being one of the countries that have really developed early warning systems and that have developed resilience. So I think that is one of the positive things, that you have worked hard on this. Because you will have to work even harder, because climate change is probably going to affect you even more. But there are some very good examples of how you have handled this so far. When it comes to violent extremism, because this is a global challenge, and we need to work together. After the Holy Artisan, the Bangladeshi government and their intelligence has done quite a good job. But I think there is still, options or it should be even probably Bangladesh should work even closer with other countries in this, because this is a global problem. We need to work together on that.
And if you talk about some strength, some strong side of Bangladesh,
your young population. So if you manage to keep to strengthen your education system, that's such an opportunity. If you manage to educate people even better than today, both when it comes to vocation.
So too many population is not a problem.
No, the population is a resource. because it's a challenge in Bangladesh because the country is rather small.
Small country.
But if you have an educated population, that is also, you know, we need people to create the values, to do the work, to produce. So rather than looking at
But in order to get them skilled, in order to get them educated, Bangladesh needs support, international support. Is that much adequate for Bangladesh, which it has been receiving? So we are expecting that Norway should come forward and stand by Bangladesh with certain degree of technology.
Technology, that I think it has to be sort of business to business rather than, because the Norwegian government doesn't really own the technology. The Norwegian government, if there are business opportunities, the companies will come. Possibly there will be other areas as well where we could have this kind of technical cooperation.
Where you would like to see Bangladesh, like beyond 2050?
Beyond 2050, Bangladesh should be a developed country.
A developed country.
A developed country where there is space for everyone, which is a democracy, where you have gender equality.
And by then, if the population comes to a number of 250 million, then how you to deal with?
Well, you know, population growth is not going. If you continue the good work that has already been done, population growth is going to slow down. And if you manage to fight child marriage, because that is also one of the challenges when it comes to population growth, is that your girls tend to marry way too early and have their first child too early, which means that a generation in Bangladesh is 16 or 18 years. In Norway, a generation might be 30 years. So that is necessary also to reduce the population growth.
How many places you have visited so far?
I've been to not enough places, I think, but I will go more. I've been to Khulna, I've been to Chittagong, to Cox's Bazar, to Dinajpur, and then only to Dhaka. But I will travel more.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Ambassador Cecil Blaken, for joining me on Frankly Speaking.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Dear viewers, that's my conversation with Ambassador Cecil Blaken, Ambassador of Norway. And we thank you indeed for watching this show. We invite you to watch our next episode. Until then, do take care.